I also like to ask you how I can help to these children to reunite with their families as quickly as possible.
On a surprise trip to McAllen, Texas, First Lady Melania Trump visited the front lines in her husband's battle over illegal immigration, talking to workers at the Upbring New Hope Children's Migrant Shelter and meeting some of the children who have been torn from their families. The First Lady spent a little over an hour at the shelter, peppering workers with questions.
Those children, how many times they speak with their relatives or families per week, for example?
Well, the children are allowed to communicate with their family twice a week. They get a 10-minute phone call.
The shelter is currently home to 55 children, 27 boys and 28 girls, ages 12 to 17. Most came from Guatemala and were unaccompanied minors, only 6 of them separated from family.
This is a classic role for a First Lady, and I think Melania Trump knows how to play that role very effectively. Go down there, ask some questions, interact with people, speak to the cameras to focus the attention of the country where she believes it should be focused right now, on the plight and the circumstances of the children who've been separated under this policy.
Her spokeswoman says the trip was Melania's idea.
My wife, our First Lady, is down now at the border because it really bothered her to be looking at this and to seeing it, as it bothered me, as it bothered everybody at this table.
But the shelter the First Lady visited was vastly different from the ones that have saturated the American consciousness for the past week, complete with cages and children shrouded in Mylar blankets. First daughter Ivanka Trump was apparently so moved by those images, she reportedly showed them to her father, encouraging him to end the separation policy. Today she tweeted, "Now that an EO has been signed ending family separation at the border, it is time to focus on swiftly and safely reuniting the families that have been separated."
His wife and daughter were only the closest people to him, making an argument that became overwhelming. He saw this on television. He heard the voices. He knew how this was playing. And in this case, his vaunted instincts failed him.
Whether it was the private pressure or the public outcry, yesterday President Trump signed an executive order ending the practice of separating migrant parents who are crossing the border illegally from their children. It's been reported that hundreds of families have already been reunited. But the president is not giving up on his zero-tolerance stance.
If you took zero tolerance away, everybody would come right now. They'd be getting their little belongings, unfortunately, and they would be heading up. You would have a run on this country the likes of which nobody's ever seen.
Shelters across the country are filled with migrant children. Today, the government releasing new images from some of the 100 shelters where children sit in limbo, media unable to film inside. In Florida, children taking art classes. In Virginia, a math lesson, then soccer. And for the first time, we see a baby being rocked by a caretaker at a so-called tender age shelter. According to Customs and Border Protection, more than 2,300 children were separated from their families between May 5th and June 9th. Those separated children were placed in the care of the Department of Health and Human Services, while their parents remained in the custody of the Department of Homeland Security.
You've got a big legal mess here. On the one hand, you've got the zero tolerance policy, which basically says we don't want to release people pending trial. And you've got a requirement that they're only allowed to keep someone with a kid there for 20 days. And there's going to be a tension between those two.
The chaos compounded by the administration's mixed messages.
You can't do it through an executive order. We are keeping families together.
Even the First Lady's trip, meant to send a message of compassion, instead sowed the threads of confusion. As these photos surfaced, the message on the back of her jacket, "I really don't care, do you?" Her spokeswoman saying in a statement, "It's a jacket. There was no hidden message. After today's important visit to Texas, I hope this isn't what the media is going to choose to focus on."
This was inexplicable. And look, images matter. This was about images, and this is among the images that come out. She made a decision to wear that jacket. Whether she thought it through, whether people around her thought it through, that was what she chose as an article of clothing. And that becomes a major piece of the story. And because the message was what it was, it becomes its own thing.
The president with his own take, saying the jacket's message refers to the fake news media. Melania has learned how dishonest they are, and she truly no longer cares. But a war of words does little to soothe mothers like Ibis Guzman, who was detained in Seattle. Her 5-year-old son nearly 1,800 miles away in a San Antonio shelter.
Bueno, yo me imagino que el niño se siente desesperado, así como yo me siento, sin tenerlo a él.
From jail, she says she imagines how desperate her son is all alone, and she is fighting to reunite with him. But as of tonight, no answers. Other separated children have begun showing up in cities around the country, including New York. Last night, 7 boys, hooded with their heads down, walked through LaGuardia Airport after arriving on a flight from Texas, apparently unaccompanied migrant children. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said the federal government never told him they were sending separated children to his city.
I've never seen anything like this.
Today, mayors from across the country, including de Blasio, descending upon that tent city in Tornillo, Texas, demanding families be reunited immediately.
The people are demanding a change, and it cannot be ignored. And if it won't happen in Washington, we will make it happen.
And on Capitol Hill,
the bill is not passed.
The latest immigration reform bill failed to pass.
Congress has been paralyzed on the issue of immigration for more than a generation. President Trump has not been able to break that logjam.
Inside the U.S. Capitol, dozens of young children protesting in silence, wrapped in those same Mylar blankets seen in those detention centers. While most agree children shouldn't suffer, some, like cattle rancher Ruperto Escobar in Roma, Texas, say something must be done to address illegal immigration.
They come in here illegally, and we, the taxpayers, wind up footing the bill for everything starting from education, food, clothing, housing, you name it, health care. Who's going to pay for all of that? We are, and I don't think that's right.
This just released cover of Time magazine, a reminder that the fallout over the Trump administration's family separation policy may be lasting. For Nightline, I'm Gio Benitez in El Paso, Texas.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.